Hey, welcome to this podcast where the truth is released to inspire you to find your voice, bring out the gold within you, and help you reach your full potential to roar out loud in the world around you. I'm your host, Mary Street, and I'm here to take you on a weekly journey of hope, inspiration, and empowerment. This podcast is where we believe in turning up the volume on life's practical tips, impart insightful wisdom, as well as share life stories of triumph, resilience, and passion. In each episode, we'll be diving deep into relevant topics in today's world, as well as into the incredible lives and stories of extraordinary everyday individuals like you and me who have been set free from the fears, lies, and have overcome great adversity and found their voice to release their roar. So whether you're tuning in during your morning drive, working out at the gym, getting ready for school, or cozying up with that good cup of coffee, get ready to amplify your life and ignite your courage. This is Roar Out Loud. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm super excited to be here with you today. We are on episode 10, and I can't believe that we're actually this far along. It's so wild, and every week we've just been leaning in, and just giving and releasing what we're getting from God and what we're hearing and what's happening, and it's just so fun. It is fun, and it's such a joy to be able to be here with you guys every week and just going after the things that are on our hearts. And so this week, I'm super excited because we're talking about practical steps in shaking off the shackles of poverty. So last week, we talked about breaking the back of the poverty spirit. And like I said, this week, we're going after practical steps in shaking off that shackles of the poverty spirit. And so, okay, everybody who's watching the video, shake your hands. Let's just shake it off, shake it off, shake it off. All right. Now, to some of you guys, that felt a little annoying, but not to me. It was actually kind of funny. So here we go. So I want to talk about this poverty word. So since I was a kid, that pesky P word literally followed me. Poverty, Poverty. It is not a sexy word. It's not a fun word. It is a word that just kind of feels attached to it. And you know what? It does have that kind of feeling attached to it because nobody likes to be in that realm of poverty in their mind or in the natural realm. And like I've said in the past, when we think of poverty, everyone thinks financial, but there's both. There's both the emotional realm of poverty and there's the financial. So I grew up in emotional poverty and financial poverty as well. And in a sense, it was something that was passed down to me. It was a learned behavior from my grandparents and my mother who raised me. And it was something that just always was in our family line. And so it was our last few years in Tanzania, Africa, as missionaries that I really began to wrestle with this way of thinking and this way of just being. As a missionary, it always just felt like there was this like underlined teaching from the Western church that missionaries are supposed to be poor. And well, honestly, we learned like this sense of like how to beg for money. I say that it felt like how to beg for money because it was always like ask for donation, get the donation, speak in the church. And we would parade our children in front of the church in their little nice African clothes. You do the whole thing, and to be able to, in a sense, like share your heart, but it was also to get money. It was always like an underlying back thing, like you got to raise that support, you got to raise that support, you got to raise that support. It felt like begging, and it felt like prostituting ourselves out to the world in a sense. And I absolutely hated that with a capital H, hated that so much. So being a missionary wasn't bad, but it was that kind of begging mentality and relying on people that went hand in hand with that whole poverty thinking, that whole poverty mindset. And so wrapped around it was all these lies. And also, in those lies was this emotional sense of like, I have to be a certain way for people to appreciate, and for people to appreciate me, appreciate what we're doing, and for people to also partner with us. And it just never really felt that great, to be honest. And God really began to prod me more and more and confront this in me. And when we came to the States in 2019, it felt like it kind of all came to a head. So one time I was at a church of over 2,000 people, and it was roughly around that number, but I'm not exactly sure. And after spending what felt like a lot of money, because as missionaries, many of us on the field and just in general don't have a ton of money. We don't. We spent money. I spent money to get to this place on plane tickets, car rentals, and all the things. And so it felt like a lot of money to get there just to share about what we were doing in Africa. And after sharing and after leaving that place and getting handed a check, the check was $500. And I walked away with that $500 and I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel really loved. I didn't feel really cherished. In reality, I was like, God, if the pastor had everyone that morning reach into their pockets for just $1, pull out $1, take up an offering for us, we would have walked away with $2,000. And I found myself literally offended. I was offended at the church and I was offended at God. Here I was a missionary for over 16 years and I poured out my life, and God, this is all I get? That's how I felt. That's literally how I felt. This is all I get? I deserve more. It just felt really like I wasn't loved. I wasn't appreciated. Like God wasn't really seeing me. And it hurt. It hurt. And I just felt like, hey, I had these lies in my head, and it felt like, Mary, you're not enough. You're not enough. You're not going to be enough. You're never going to be enough. So these lies would just come at me, and they would come at me. And God showed me that that offense was attached to an emotionally poverty way of thinking, because his kingdom is an upside down kingdom. Literally, as sons and daughters, we don't rely on the hand of man in the natural realm. We rely on Papa God. So Papa God, he is our sole provider because he's good. And the reality is, you've heard me say it before, there is no lack in his kingdom. No lack whatsoever. There's no lack in his kingdom. I just want to talk about some practical steps in overcoming poverty thinking, which involves going after those lies, like I was talking about, going after those things that bombard our head day in and day out sometimes, and creates that emotional poverty within us. So here are some practical steps in overcoming poverty thinking, which involves going after those lies that bombard us every single day, sometimes in our heads and in our hearts, like we talked about in the last episode. And it involves taking daily practical steps to improve not only your financial situation, but also your emotional state of being, like all of you. And it will improve when you go after some of these things. And so one of the things that is so important, that I find so important, is knowing you are not a victim. Like I realized when God really started taking me on this journey of breaking me out of poverty thinking, that I had this kind of victim mentality in my mind. Like I was raised in poverty household, and this is just the way it is, and this is what follows me, and I'm never going to have enough, and I'm not going to be able to get this, and I'm never going to reach this goal financially, and we're just always going to be in debt, and I'm not enough for this to be able to go talk to this leader. And so I was having those lies attack me in my emotional realm and attack me in just the financial and the natural realm as well. So it's so important to know you are not a victim. You're not a victim to your childhood. You're not a victim to your circumstances. You are not a victim to your failures, and you're not a victim to your past. You're not a victim to the words that people have spoken over you. None of those things determine whether you will remain in poverty or not. It's your mindset that determines whether you remain in poverty or not. And that is one of the things that we really begin to discover. It is a way of thinking. It is a mindset that attaches to our heart that says, I'm not enough. It's connecting with the lies that are so not from the kingdom realm. So another practical step is know that you are powerful. Hey, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, I want you to say that I am a powerful person. I am powerful. You know, sometimes it takes just repeating these things and declaring these things out of our mouths before we really begin to believe it, because it takes saying it over and over again and allowing your mind to connect to your heart. There were many, many, many mornings, and still I do this sometimes. I will look in the mirror and I'll look at myself and I'll say, Mary, you are a powerful person. And what you carry is going to influence and change the world. I say things like that over myself. And I've even been known to write it on my mirrors and things like that, because I know that it's so important to go after those lies and to break free from them and really begin to believe, not just in your mind, because many people can say it out of their mind, but they don't always connect to their heart. So know that you are powerful. You're powerful. This is why you're not a victim. Let me say that again. You are not a victim. You're not a victim. You may not feel powerful, but you, my friend, are a powerful person. Sure, you may feel like you got dealt the wrong deck of cards at birth. I know I definitely did. I can remember different periods of my life from the time I was a kid, sometimes throughout my teenage years, sometimes in my college years, different points in my life when I was dealing with some of these emotional things in my heart. Even when I was married, when I was dealing with some of these emotional things in my heart, and I would think about like my family and the family that I was raised in, I literally, I would cry feeling like I got dealt the wrong deck of cards. I got gypped. God, why did you put me in this family? God, why was I born into a family where I was going to get abused? I was going to get sexually abused. I was going to get emotionally abused. All of these things. Why did I get dealt that deck of cards? Why? And I literally would fall into this victim mentality because I didn't realize I actually am a powerful person. So you may feel like you got dealt that wrong deck of cards at birth. However, you have the power to right the wrongs handed down to you. We all have that power, and you can rise above the wrongs, the offenses, and literally be the change and change the trajectory of your life and of your family's life. Your children and your great grandchildren, I promise you, will thank you as you bask in the legacy that you build, or that you are beginning to build, or that you have a dream to build. They will bask in the legacy of what you build for years to come when you rise up and you begin to decree, I am powerful. I'm powerful. Another practical step is to take hold of the reins of your life. Yes, let me say that again. Take hold of the reins. You are in charge of you and your money. You're in charge of your heart and your emotional state of being. Your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your boss, your spiritual mother, your spiritual father. Nobody is in charge of you or your heart or your emotional state of being. You are in charge of it. So take hold of the reins. Your wallet also isn't in charge of you. Talking from a financial standpoint, your wallet is not in charge of you. Your paycheck or lack of one isn't in charge of you. Your circumstances are not in charge of you. Your pastor, your spouse, like I said, all those people, they're not in charge of you. Your mountain of debt, no, 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 no. It's not in charge of you. No, you are in charge of it. You are in charge of you. So how bad do you really want change in your life? And how bad do you want to overcome that poverty mindset and that situation, like that mountain of debt that maybe you are in? So usually there is pain attached to poverty thinking. And pain, I say, has a purpose. When you really lean into the pain and you really go after those things in your heart and you go, okay, heart, what's going on? Yes, you can speak to your heart. You can speak to your heart. Say, heart, what is going on? Why do you feel this way? Why do you feel anxiety when you look at that number or lack of number in your bank account? Why do you feel anxiety when you look at your budget and you know that you're not getting enough money in? Why do you feel anxiety around these things? Why do you feel anxiety when this family member contacts you or this is happening in your life? Heart, what is going on? So pain has a purpose when you really lean into it. And you'll either be pushed by pain or pulled by the passions of your life. And one feels better than the other. One honestly feels better than the other. In my life, speaking from a personal point of view, I have been pushed by pain. I have really been pushed by pain. And I've had to lean into that pain. And I've had to go, okay, what is going on? And really ask some deep, heartfelt questions around personal, emotional stuff and also around financial things. So the pushing and the pulling, yes, is painful and can get you to where you need to be, both emotionally and financially. I believe that. I'm going to say that again. The pushing and the pulling, it is painful. However, when you lean in, it can get you to where you need to be, both personally, both emotionally, both financially. It can get you there if you allow it to. So, friend, the pushing, let me say, that hurts. It does hurt. I feel like I'm an expert in a sense in this department by now because of all the pain that I have had in my life from childhood, from that poverty realm that we lived in, sometimes literally not even knowing where our next meal was coming from. Literally, I can remember as a child, I can remember not having food. And then one day, bags of groceries showed up on my doorstep. And we didn't even know how or who, but bags of groceries showed up on my doorstep. And just little things like that that would happen that actually looking back were huge. They were huge marker moments in my life as a child. And so, look at the points in your life and see where the pain is and see where God wants to take you in that and where he wants to heal your heart, because pain really does have a purpose. And when you lean into it, you grow in authority. And like I said, I do believe I'm an expert in some of this realm because I've walked through so much of it. And I know that I carry authority in different aspects when it comes to emotional pain and different aspects when it comes to financial pain. So I was in emotional and mental type poverty for far way too long in my life. You don't have to be in it for a long time when you really begin to lean in and go after the truth. But this type of poverty often manifests itself through like loneliness, mental changes or challenges like depression or relationship issues within families and close friendships. That's where your emotional poverty usually what it's around usually. And it takes getting our eyes literally off of our circumstances and off of ourselves and coming face to face with the truth. Like, what is the truth? What is the truth here? And face to face also with love and an emptying of ourselves so that God literally can come. He can fill us with his truth, his life, and his love. These truths about God felt hard to believe at times. And I would feel myself swayed, literally swayed back and forth by emotions of sometimes having great big faith to great big disappointment as I wrestled and had crazy heart pain around financial debt, especially as in different aspects of life, financial debt. At times I felt like we would never, ever, ever, ever be able to climb out of it. And around that financial debt also comes the lies that you're not good enough. There's so much shame wrapped around it. Like, and also sometimes God doesn't love me enough. Otherwise, if he really loved me, I wouldn't be in this mess. Or sometimes it's like, shame. It's like Adam and Eve when they hid from God in the garden. They felt shame because they were naked. Well, sometimes financial debt feels the same way. Like, oh, I've got all this debt, so I've hurt God and I didn't steward that well, and so therefore I need to hide from God. When the reality is, this is so important to just really be open and honest with him and to go after that pain in your heart. And I used to think that that mountain of financial debt that my husband and I had found ourselves in was in charge of us. And we felt like we were so coming under it. And, oftentimes I hear, financial debt, you're a slave to financial debt. And to an extent, you can look at it that way because yes, you will have to stay in that and pay it off until it's fully paid off. But the reality is you do not have to be a slave to it. And it feels like it's in charge of us. And it feels like we're coming under this oppression and depression sometimes. And the reality is you don't have to be there. You do not have to be there. And the only reason why we felt like we were there is because we allowed it to rule over us. Yeah, isn't that crazy thought? Like, it's true though. We allowed it. We allowed it to rule over us. The truth of the matter is, financial debt, it will only enslave you and literally feel like at times it's suffocating you as much as you let it. And you can rise above it. And one of the ways, when it comes to financial debt, rising above it is that we've done in our lives, practical ways, is really taking steps in budgeting on a monthly basis. Like we literally write out all of our bills, cross them off as we pay them every month, and we budget. And even a budget in and of itself, it's amazing how it can make you feel powerful. And we collect our receipts. That's another thing, is collecting our receipts. I know many people take those paper receipts and they toss them up and throw them in the garbage. Well, it was hard at first. It felt hard, but then it got easier. And we would take our receipts and we literally every single month, we know exactly where, for the most part, where our money is going. And we know exactly, okay, this amount is going to go towards this bill and this amount's going towards this. And you begin to rise up and become powerful over your finances, over your financial debt. You become a powerful person, and you can become that powerful person. Don't believe that you can't, because if I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me. Poverty followed me for most of my life. And when you begin to rise up and go after those heart pains around it, both emotional poverty state of mind and financial poverty state of mind, you realize, whoa, I am not enslaved to this. I actually am a powerful person. Powerful people, they look at debt and they don't fear it. They actually begin to laugh at it. So let's just laugh right now. Yes. Did that make you feel uncomfortable? Well, okay. Maybe it made me feel uncomfortable a little bit, but not really because I can't see you. Okay. So, but powerful people, they really do. They laugh at their debt and they don't fear it. They don't shy away from it. They don't try and pretend like it's not there. They don't say, we can't, because the truth is, you can. That verse in the Bible says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because you can. So powerful people, instead, they run at it. They run at it head on. They run at it head on. Debt is like the Goliath in your life. And so you have to be like David. David took that slingshot, right? He took that sling and he went after the giant one stone at a time. And friend, you can too. You can too. You are powerful and you do have tools in your belt even now, and you can grow greater tools to step into, to overcome. So I believe that you can shake the shackles off that bind you when it comes to poverty. You can shake those shackles off. You can shake them, shake them, shake them. Say that with me. I'm shaking the shackles off. I'm shaking the shackles off. Those are practical steps in shaking off the shackles of the poverty spirit. And I believe that you can overcome. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends and family. Always remember, your voice matters. Your dreams are worth pursuing. And you, my friend, have the power to roar out loud.